Hey everyone, welcome back to Build. I'm your host, Master Sfatian, senior writer at Bleacher Report and host of Untold Stories. Today I'm sitting down with Hall of Fame catcher Mike Piazza. The 12-time All-Star is a New York Mets legend and one of 4 players to have their numbers retired by the organization. He's here to talk about his career and what has been a crazy World Series so far. Please take a look at the clip.
Lopez wants it away. And it's hit deep to left center. Andrew Jones on the run. This one has a chance. Home run! Mike Piazza, and the Mets lead 3-2.
Take a look at this. He's got as much power as anybody. He got the arms extended. A long home run. And a curtain call.
Please welcome Mike Piazza.
Thank you. Thank you, man.
I want to ask you about that clip. For those who don't have context, can you tell them about that clip, and does that clip ever get old for you?
You could play it again. No, I mean, for those that don't know, I'm sure it's an amazing story. It was the first game in New York City after 9/11. You know, the tragedy of 9/11, and that whole week after the attacks was just a very obviously sad, filled with tears and anger and all the emotions that you go through when this city experienced that. But then it turned to, well, when do we play? When is it right to come back? We were out for a week, and we were all trying to figure out, because obviously it's something so much greater than baseball.
Absolutely.
And so there was a lot of anxiety. There was a lot of trepidation. There was just this sort of feeling. And then we were like, hey, sooner or later we got to get back out there. So when we did, it was just a night of incredible emotion. I mean, from the start, when they had the NYPD bagpipe band come out, and Liza Minnelli sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" and "New York, New York." It was really a special night, and it was a night that, looking back, was the right place at the right time. We were meant to be there, and it was just a small step in trying to get the city back, to try to heal a little bit, and try to get ourselves to try to, as I said, heal and move on.
When you were in the clubhouse after that moment, and obviously you've had a lot of time now to reflect and be retrospective on that moment, but what do you recall while you were sitting in the clubhouse as all of this is transpiring, and you've had this moment now that will be remembered throughout history, and to the point where your jersey from that moment ends up being the largest and most expensive jersey ever purchased in an auction?
Well, for me, it was, I just remember before the game, and I'm a man of faith, and I was like praying. I was like, God, please help me get through this night, because I didn't know if we could hold it together emotionally. And playing baseball is difficult enough under regular conditions, but under a night like that, with the emotion and the fear and the sadness and the anxiety, was even more difficult. So I just started praying and said, God, please just let me get through this night, and to be at the right place at the right time. And it was like the world opened up for me there, and I felt people pulling for me, and I felt this real positive emotion, positive, lack of a better word, vibes, everyone pulling for me, and it just being at the right place at the right time, and it fortunately came through. It was really, really an amazing moment.
Well, I mean, you've had a lot of great moments throughout your Hall of Fame career, but where does that one rank? I mean, you also talk about you caught no-hitters. You talk about 12 All-Stars. You helped shut down Shea Stadium, the Subway Series.
I don't think it compares to the rest of my career, because it was just such a unique moment, such a moment that just was transcended baseball, transcended playing. So I can't really compare it to my first home run or 100th home run or any other home runs. So, and to be honest with you, I've always felt a certain amount of trepidation when people do talk about it, because when people say, this you're a hero, and I said, no, I'm not. It's really uncomfortable because people put it obviously in in a great memory, but also it's uncomfortable for me because it's tough for me. And believe me when I tell you, it's like I've had tons of opportunities to try to, lack of a better word, do that moment or market that moment. And I was like, no, it's out of respect for
A lot of respect for
the
that.
people and the event. I'm not going to do it and self-grandize it or feel like that it's something. So I've always been sort of, trepid to talk about it. But it's something that people remember and they really gravitate towards too. So it's always really still a healing to talk about it. So I enjoy it in formats like this.
How much do you enjoy when people come up to you and they tell you how much you help with that process for them?
It's been
healing
something
process.
that I can't describe. I mean, I've been in airports, on planes, I've been in the supermarket, and it's unbelievable. I mean, like I said, I was in the supermarket with my kids, and someone will walk up to me and goes, "Hey, my brother passed away in 9/11. He was a firefighter. He, that moment was just something we'll never forget." And it's just, I'm sitting there by the produce going, "Wow, it's crazy." And it's definitely an honor, and I'm honored that I was in the right place, right? And I'm honored that people do respond and still remember that. So it's definitely heavy, and I try to, as I said, just if people want to talk about it, I do enjoy it because I still feel like it's cathartic for them.
You speak about how you were in the right place at the right time for this moment to exist. I want to take it back to the start. Your father, big baseball fan, he wanted to purchase an MLB franchise. How did that get you involved in the sport?
Yeah, my father was self-made. An entrepreneur. I mean, he didn't graduate high school, dropped out of high school, got drafted in Korea, came out of high school with a couple $100, started a small business of fixing cars, eventually became one of the largest car dealers in the Philadelphia area. And now today we even still have 22 stores. So if you need a deal, let me
Let him know.
Piazza.
Tell him Piazza sent you.
Piazza Auto. Just a short drive to Philly. We'll take it. And but his first love was baseball. I mean, he always wanted to play. And of course, we all dream, a lot of guys and people that I meet, like I always wanted to be a great, an athlete, but life gets in the way, responsibilities, and just sometimes you have to do what you have to do to put food on the table. And that was his thing. But I mean, when he started doing well business-wise, at the time in the 80s, there was some teams that were in trouble. I mean, and I think at the time he could have bought the Pirates for like $14 million. I was like, wow, man, you should have, even if we, would have sucked for 20 years and not be able to, it would be worth, 10 times as much. So it was a different world back then. And because of his relation, he grew up with Tommy Lasorda. He was a little younger than Tommy. They grew up in Norristown, Pennsylvania. So they always dreamed of buying a team and running a team together. And that deal never materialized. And obviously he went on to other things business-wise. But it just inspired me. I mean, because I knew it was kind of parallel to my career. And it was a little awkward at times because he wanted to do his thing in baseball and I was doing my thing. But I stayed focused. And again, I've been blessed to have my family support me, number one, but also have amazing coaches and coaches that I really, and I tell kids all the time, listen to your coaches. If you could find someone who you respond to, do it. And I was blessed. I was blessed to have great coaches help me.
Including Tommy Lasorda, who ended up drafting you with the Dodgers, and was it 62nd?
Yeah, it was 62nd round, which they don't even have 62 rounds anymore.
Coming out of a JUCO, correct me if I'm wrong?
Yeah, no, it was a little, I mean, I'll say it's a Paul Bunyan story, but it wasn't like I was an unknown. I mean, I was a pretty good ball player coming out of Pennsylvania. I was like all state 2 years in a row, and then I went to University of Miami. I wasn't ready for that. It was just too much of a jump for me, and my career stalled. So I went to junior college and started playing pretty well for a few months, and then I hurt my hand. I tore a ligament in my left hand. I was playing first base at the time. And the Dodgers had been watching me, and Tommy had been talking to my father, and they're like, "Look, let's draft him and see if he gets healthy, and if maybe he'll go back to school, and we can watch him like a draft and follow." So before I went back to school, they go, hey, come out to LA for a tryout. We'll take a look, because they were signing a few more players at the end of the year. And I did so well. So they actually gave me $15,000 to sign, which for a 62nd round pick is like, that's like getting $1 million today. So, and I signed, and then they converted me to a catcher, because when I signed, I go to instructional league, and the Dodgers had Eric Karros, who was a rookie of the year, Henry Rodriguez, who was a really good ball player, and this other All-American named Brian Traxler. And they're at first base, and they're like, see that? You're not going to play at first base. You better figure something out. They go, have you ever tried catching? And I'm like, no, but I'll give it a shot. And
That's
I did.
Such a difficult position.
It's crazy.
To learn on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, the first few years I was like a Labrador Retriever. I was running back to the screen like every single game, and the pitchers were frustrated, and it was frustrating. And I remember nights, I remember laying in bed looking up going, what the hell am I doing here? Like, this is just insane. And I just kept stuck with it. You know, I stuck with it, and I always could hit a little bit. So that was the thing that was keeping me around. They were like, we can't let this guy go because he could swing the bat. And Reggie Smith, who I talked about in my Hall of Fame speech, who is an amazing story. I mean, he came up with the Boston Red Sox. He was a direct disciple of Ted Williams. And when I signed with the Dodgers, he was the coordinator, the hitting coordinator, and he just worked with me. He saw something in me, and he just knew. He knew I had a chip. Mm-hmm. I'm a nice guy now that I have kids and I'm 50, but back in my 20s,
what do you have to prove?
I was a dick, you know. I was. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you know, you have to do – that's what I always tell people when they're critical of athletes, because I say, look, first off, if everyone was the same, it'd be a boring world, number 1.
100%.
Number 2, and it's about survival. Like, you have to – willing to step on someone's neck to win.
Because what are the odds of just making it to the big leagues? You're looking at less than 1% possibly.
Exactly. And then you wonder where all these, you know, like Leo DeRocher said, nice guys finish last, you know, and all these, where do these sayings come from? I mean, as I said, recently, I remember watching John McEnroe in an interview, and he said, you always have to find a way to re-motivate yourself. You always have to find a way to keep chasing, whether that in sports, business, your personal life, whatever that may be. Like, always find a carrot dangling in front of you. Like, what is your motivation? For some people, it's money. Some people, it's fame. Some people, it's both. So you have to find that inside if you want to be great. And it's just, you got to be incorrigible. You have to sacrifice. You have to be willing to pay the price. You have to be willing to, like in high school, I mean, I never dated. I never went to the prom. I was out hitting, you know. I was a geek, you know. I was really awkward socially. Even when I got to the big leagues, I was in California. I was like, wow, I'm living in LA. I'm making money. The girls are gorgeous. Like, I wasn't ready for that, you know. It was definitely a shock.
You talk about continuously having to remotivate yourself. Do you recall a moment in your career where you had to change up whatever that carrot was that was dangling in front of your face? From just breaking into the big leagues to making it a catcher, being obviously a rookie of the year, making all-star. What was that one moment, the pivotal moment do you remember in your career where you had to remotivate yourself?
Well, you kind of listed them all in a way, because I think I found, and I mean this truly, some athletes are afraid of success as well as failure. I mean, I played out of fear, you know, because I was always afraid of looking bad. And some players play because they like money or whatever the case may be. And I don't know, because I don't, you know what's in their head. But generally, for me, I've always found that with awards and accomplishments creates high expectations.
Absolutely.
And for some players, they can't deal with that. Like, they kind of want to just stay here. And I've had guys that are like, oh, I'm just happy being here, you know, hit my 20 home runs, not going to, you know, making $3 or $4 million. And that's cool with me. You know, I don't want to be great. And I'm like, what?
That's the fear of success you speak about?
Exactly. Like, I'm like, I want to flame out, man. I want to be like the plane is, oh, you know, I want it all. I want the commercials. I want the money. I want the fame. I want that. And so that's something I've found in sports and in business too. You know, some people are fear of change. My whole thing is change is good sometimes. You know, it knocks you off your comfort zone, you know, because life is comfortable. And I tell, when I give motivational speeches to kids, I go, look, life can give you comfort, but do you want to be comfortable or do you want to be great?
And growth is what is the direct result of being uncomfortable. You cannot be comfortable and grow.
You got to put yourself out there. You know, you can't. I love cliches. You know, you can't steal second with your foot on first. You know, You can't.
There's some good baseball cliches, though. That
They're
kinda
great,
like,
right?
I covered mainly NFL and NBA and also dabble in baseball, but it seems like the baseball cliches, just going up
They're
the bat,
amazing.
just all you need to do is get a hit, and you're going to
Yeah.
hit 333, you're going to hit 3 out of 10 times, but those 3, make them count.
Sure.
Those kind of analogies, I feel like with baseball apply so much more to life than other sports.
Yeah, it's true, and it is true. It's baseball's life, and I remember. I mean, when you're a baseball team, you spend so much time together, more than your own family. I mean, you're in spring training, you're on the bus, and that's what I kind of miss. Everyone's like, "Do you miss playing?" I go, "I miss the guys." Miss the guys, having a few beers after the game, talking about the game, talking about experiences, learning, and things like that. So. That's the one thing I miss. But back to cliches, I remember some of them, and I tell people all the time. This coach told me, when in doubt, shut the hell up. It's better to keep your mouth closed and look dumb than to open it and remove all the doubt.
That's a good one.
So I learned to be real quiet. He's like, you understand? I'm like,
Yep.
so.
You still watch the game?
I did. You know what's funny? We were talking about this in the green room. It's weird as a kid, right? I would be waiting to get off the bus to watch the game. And now, today, I feel like a dinosaur because I grew up in the 70s, right? So it's like I would watch Howard Cosell and the game of the week, and I would sit there and be like, oh, my God, the Yankees are playing the Royals in the American Championship Series. And I would watch the game. Now it's like we watch highlights, right?
Yeah.
And you're at the stadium and you're watching a TV. And I'm like, do you watch the TV or do you watch the game? It's weird. And I found generally the attention span of the sports fan today is so short. We watch highlights, right? Like we don't really. Does anybody really watch a game from start to finish?
I work at
anymore?
Bleacher Report, and our whole model is based off of the highlights.
Right?
We're gonna get you the highlights faster
Like
than anybody
my
else.
buddy was telling me about the red zone. He was like, all the football games. I was like, all right, we don't have to see the punts. We don't have to see like the guy on the bench walking around with the jacket on. But when you get okay, now we'll go to this game. So yeah, I mean that's how it's changed. I think generally sports in general has changed because it's become a highlight reel. So people say to me, do you watch a game? I go, I watch highlights.
It's been a crazy World Series so far. We've seen every road team win so far through 5 games.
Yeah.
Astros are up 3-2 as they head back to Houston. I wanted to ask you something that happened in Game 5 where Yan Gomes is debating a questionable call as he's dealing with the umpire Lance Barksdale. And he, pitcher painted the corner, looked like a clear strike. Yan gets up, getting ready to throw the ball, going around the horn. Umpire doesn't acknowledge it and basically says he got up too fast. To where Martinez, the Nationals manager, is literally telling him, "Come on, what are you doing? This is the World Series. Why are you trying to act up on this?" And it's caused a lot of conversation this morning as people have talked about the umpire show and the questionable calls. And I'm curious, with your experience as catcher, have there ever been moments where you got up
I'm
too
going to
fast?
date myself too because I was just like, what? I'm watching this. I mean, when I came up, it was the umpires, they had complete autonomy, man. There was no video, rarely video. I mean, video came in, I think it was 97. Remember Levon Hernandez threw a great game, and they were showing some of the balls raw, and they were starting to ignite this whole thing. But, oh, my God, I mean, there was this umpire. I'm not going to mention his name because he was actually a really nice guy, but I just remember we were playing the Phillies one night, and it was the good team, the Phillies, and I think it was Pete Incaviglia or someone I was out and the ball was like this far off the corner. And he went, yeah, strike 3. And Pete went, what? Are you freaking kidding me? Blah, 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 blah. And to keep it clean. So then the umpire said to me, he goes, Mikey, get out there further for the rest of the game because I'm going to screw them all. And the rest of the game, we won like 2-0, and it was like, and I won't even say who it is. But I mean, I was like, wow, man, this was that era, and it's different today. And that's an anomaly. That rarely happens. But I think obviously, this guy did not like when you question the call. So
do you think because of that emotional attachment and the subjectivity that is involved with umpires, there's been a lot of conversations about, automatic strike zones and incorporating robots and replay in terms of just having immediate calls and strikes and basing it off of an objective strike zone? Do you think baseball should trend in that direction as we become more?
I
try to eliminate
hate to
these
see
errors?
the human element taken out of it because I do like the fact that humans, we are fallible at times, and so are officials, and I don't want to get to see where it's so mechanical that it takes away from the sort of genuine, organic part of the game. You know, we're just like, we have to check every single thing, have to check. I mean, I like the fact now that if it's an egregiously bad call, yes, it can be reversed, but I think there has to be a balance there. But again, I'm dealing with the old extreme, you know what I mean? Where there was nothing, I mean, it was like, doom, doom, and it was like, is he out or safe? And the umpire would go like that. I mean, it was like, we're waiting, you know, and it's so different. So
these days, there's such an emphasis on efficiency and analytics, and you're starting to see a lot of the kind of the in-between functions of not only just baseball, but sports in general that's being erased, where I think the biggest complaint with baseball now is either a home run or a strikeout because of the way that they're the launch pads and the way that they're changing things. And
launch angle. I was like,
exactly.
Launch angle? The hell's a launch angle?
How many times you work on your launch angle?
I mean, I just remember Reggie Smith said, hey, man, you got to hit it where the grass don't grow, dude.
That was your launch angle?
He was great. He was good. Reggie was great. He goes, I hit it where the grass don't grow. That was my launch angle. But no, I mean, yeah, the one thing I miss about sports, and again, I'm dating myself, and I'm not that guy who's like, back when I played, it was so much tougher, and, you know, we used to play with bare feet, and, you know, we used to go with our arms, you know, we tape an aspirin to. I missed, it seems like there's more an emphasis now on the mechanical part about it and less on personalities. And remember, baseball and sports was like the Steelers, you know, like, you know, the steel curtain,
the Yankees,
the Broad Street Bully, the Flyers, you know, Dr. J. Moses. It was like,
Purple people,
the Lakers, man, they're coming to town. It was like you had teams and you had more personality. Now it's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's a little austere, I guess, you know?
a lot more people are focused on their own individual brand.
Yeah. And
they're becoming kind of almost the same robots.
And I'm not that guy like, oh, with the good old days.
But it's
really,
I'm 28, and there's a side of that to which I agree with you on. It was that part of it has been lost.
Hey, do you remember when like your team sucked? You would still go to watch the cool team when they came in. It was like, we suck, but we're playing the Steelers, so we're gonna go see the Steelers, right? You know, so it's just different now. Now it's like maybe too much parody, you know? It's great when a team just stomps you into the ground. And
We've got 2 audience questions for you. This audience has actually been really great here so far. We'll start off here.
Hello, Mr. Piazza. Hello, Mr. Piazza. It's an honor being in the same room as you and talking to you. So my question is, the New York Mets is looking for a new manager. If the manager goes calling you, would you be able or willing to take the position?
Well, listen, to be honest with you, it's intriguing to me, but I'm not ready at this point. I really know. I think it's kind of like if an athlete takes some time off, you need some time to get back into the flow of the game. So I'm not in, you know, they haven't approached me about it. They haven't really mentioned. If the ownership asks me, what do you think about this guy? I always give them my honest opinion. And I have a great relationship with the Mets. I mean, I'm part of the alumni. We do a lot of great events. We do community outreach. We do the things that are, I mean, I enjoy, really. And to be honest with you, to be a manager, it's like getting back in the machine. It's you can't do it half-ass. You got to go in all the way. And I would have to really dedicate myself to getting back in the game, circling coaches that I trust, guys that I trust, really putting my mindset into that. And I never say never, but the way I've always approached the game, even when I played, I can't do it unless I'm all in. You got to be all in. So it's flattering when people say, "Oh, you should think about it," but I'm not in that zone right now.
It's interesting you thought about how much it would take just to get to that point. It seems like that's ultimately the first step, and acknowledging and checking off that box before you can move any further.
And, you know, truth be told, I mean, there's a lot of really good managers that are out of work. I mean, guys that are, I mean, it's crazy. I go to spring training and, you know, I'm like the old guy and I'm signing autographs and walking around and going, hey, do it this way, dude. And then I'm going to the spread. You know, I got my coffee and I go to the gym. I'm just like, and then they're like, you know, in the war room, and they got all this data, and they got computers, and they're like, you pitch this guy, that guy. I go, dude, I used to go to the bathroom and have a piece of paper, the scouting report. Don't pitch to Barry Bonds. I'm like, going to the bed, reading the scouting report. Okay, walk Barry Bonds. All right.
Fair enough.
That was it. That was my scout. Now it's like, they got computers, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's insane. I mean, it's funny. Speaking of Barry Bonds, there was a scout, and he passed away, God rest his soul. His name was Jerry Stevenson, and he used to do our reports when I was with the Dodgers. And Barry Bonds was just going off, hitting bombs and everything. So he put a little Peanuts cartoon in the scouting report. And so Linus is walking up to Charlie Brown, and he says, Charlie Brown, this is their best hitter. What are you going to do? And he goes, well, maybe if we just stand here long enough, he'll go away. And that was the scouting report for Barry Bonds, So that was the stuff we used to have fun with. So.
When you look at that as a catcher, what do you do?
Yeah, now it's like they have computer. Yeah, I'm just like, okay, I guess we're walking. So yeah, that's how the game has changed. I would walk in like the game. We'd be like, okay, who's hot, who's not? Pitch this guy. I just knew as a catcher what we tried to do. So, but now sometimes you get paralysis through analysis. Now it's like so much numbers, so much paralysis, so much like analysis and guys talking and then it's like, oh, I didn't think that was going to happen. It's different. Yeah, I enjoy it. Like I said, I'm not a hater. I think it's great because there's so many positive things. But it's I'm dating myself. I feel like a dinosaur.
We've got one more audience question as well.
All right. Hey, Mike. Just want to say it's an honor and a pleasure just to
Thank
talk
you.
to you. All the memories at Shea Stadium with my dad and my sister. You brought our family together. So thank you so much for everything. My question is, knowing that we saw earlier the home run after 9/11, the iconic shot when you're coming out of the clubhouse into the Shea Stadium dugout for the first time. When you look back on your career and all the different moments that you had, is there one particular moment that you can say to yourself, this is the moment that, for myself, defines my career?
Wow. That's a heavy question. I mean, I do say some. One particular moment, I don't know. I mean, I will say the one moment for me that I realized that it's a team game was when we won, the pennant, when Mike Hampton pitched a great game. We beat St. Louis and we're going to the World Series because one thing as a player that I've always, of course, you enjoy personal success. You enjoy the trophies. But I remember, Tommy Lasorda used to say all the time, individual achievements wins trophies. Teamwork wins championships. Talk about cliches. And it's always one thing I love about a team is when you achieve something together, it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter where you grew up. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Italian, Dominican. You're a team. Like, you bleed together. There's no weirdness. It's all of us. And we all know that we have a role and something to achieve together. And that's what I love about sports. It's like there's no categorizing people. Well, you're this, you're that. No, we're a team. And when you achieve something together, it's something that is a bond that you'll have for the rest of your life. So anytime I see those guys, it's like, oh, yeah, remember the time you did? Yeah. Like Lenny Harris was one of the guys that I love. He's his all-time. And he used to just get me going. He used to just ride me and grind. And I loved it, He used to just, I can't say a lot of things he said, but he used to just ride me, and he was so funny. And Pat Mahomes, the guy I play with, who is crazy. So that's the story, right? I'm like, a few years ago, and I don't follow a lot of football. I mean, I watch some football, but I'm like, is that Mahomes? I go, God, I play with a guy named Pat Mahomes, right? And I'm watching this dude, and he's like going off. I'm like,
now he's the MVP.
Yeah, I played with his dad, and I think I was like, I had some pictures with him. I was like, yeah, I taught him everything he knows. But it's crazy, yeah. So I mean, even Pat, he used to call me. We had this. My nickname was the Monster, and it was funny that time when I was playing when we won to the World Series. He was like, come on, Monster, and then. We unfortunately didn't win the series, but a few years later, he was making a comeback in the minor leagues, and I'm there in the outfield shagging, and I didn't even know he's jogging by me here and go, what's up, Monster? Like that. And I was like, homie, what's up? It's just really cool. You just, that bond is, it's just, you can't explain it. And that's what you really miss.
I think I could sit here for another 2 hours listening to these stories, and I'm sure they could too. But we're out of time. Thank you again, Mike, for coming by. And thank you guys for coming and attending.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Once again, for Mike Piazza.
All right.